just as I blame Imus for causing the bankruptcy of Citadel when they brought him onto the mornings, you were Air America's morning guy. So I'm blaming you for the cause of death of Air America.
I take full responsibility for it, Curtis, as you know, when you are the linchpin of an organization. But, you and I have been through this thing since we have seen every version of change. Do you know, let me just go back. When I first came to New York from your old stomping grounds in your dad's Ybor City on the corner of, anyway, we did not have the internet. Now just think about this. I remember one time at ABC talking to a woman, she says, and one day people will have a website, a homepage. And I said, what the hell are you talking about, a homepage? Remember in the newsroom, they had that news service where that was it. You loved Morning Drive because you said, that's where we get our papers. Of course, it was a premier time. This is in 1994. Right now, with the proliferation of everything, do yourself and your listeners a favor. When you see somebody under the age of 30, walk up to them and ask them, what kind of radio do you have? They'll look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? No, what kind of radio? Transistor? You mean satellite? No, radio. Do you have a radio? Do you have your car? What music station do you listen to? Go into Radio Shack and ask them for a radio. I'm telling you, you got a better chance of getting a shack, than the radio. So this is an extremely protean time. My God, things are changing by the day. Delivery system, content system, websites, internet, satellite. I mean, it is an amazing time.
Oh yeah, well, just the other day, a person who lived well beyond the power of the tower here at AM 970 said, "Oh, I'm listening to you each morning now that you're back in morning drive." And said, "How could you live out and leave it to Beaverland? Father knows best. Little house on the prairie." He goes, "Oh, iPhone, Blackberries, they can pick it up." And you're right, they can. They can pick up a local show, even though they might be states and states away.
That's exactly right. We're old enough to remember, well, you be exceedingly much older, but we remember we had 3 networks. That was it. At 6 o'clock, that was the news. And we also had time for, if you don't watch it now, you're going to miss it. This is before, I remember remote control was the biggest thing that ever changed my life. So now what happens is, as you know, Curtis, if somebody were to ask, who is the number one, let's say arbitrage, who is the number one radio personality from 6 to 9 in the New York Metro, they'd say, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, who is listened to? Well, Curtis Sliwa is, but he's the number one listened to, but we're not sure really when he's listened to. Might be midnight, might be the next day, somebody podcasts it, somebody hears your show. We don't know. Appointment radio, the idea that at this time, this is when people listen, that's all changing. When they talked about Leno going at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I thought, who cares? I've got a DVR. I'm going to watch him whenever I want. I can put him on at 3 in the morning. Doesn't matter to me. So we are in the midst of change. You, my friend, have resisted change like an antibiotic resists bacteria.
Well, remember, I've flip-flopped. I've gone from local talk to a nationally syndicated show, now back to local talk. You, too, have done local, national, local.
Internet. Shortwave. I got a gig in the offing right now for, that 1600, when you go to JFK or LaGuardia for parking instruction. I'm working on a midday show there. I also remember there was a time, and people forget this, but in the annals of radio history, when you were on WNYC, you talk about, seismic change, and now classical music, followed by Hocus Pocus and Ho Hocus.
And I might add that it was Lionel who came up with the first actual publication of Sliwonics. Could you explain to our listening audience what Sliwonics is?
Let me tell you something. It never ceased to amaze me. As most people know, there's, of course, the malaprop or malapropism, where you would say, oh, that's obviously a mistake. You came up with variations that were so close to what the original reference point was, we weren't sure what the actual origin was. One time, I'll never forget, you said, and by the way, you don't sound like this, but this is the way I interpret you. But you said, we're between a hard rock and a hard spot. And I thought, wait a minute, that's right, but wait a minute, what the hell's the phrase? Or, well, it's like a knight on a white shiny horse. My favorite, though, of all time, Alzheimer's disease, brought to you by, and the greatest of ever. As you know, you were ahead of your time, Curtis.
Yes.
When it came to scientific information, you, of course, brought in the Bronx version of, for those people who have difficulty being impregnated, you came up with veto infertilization, which, and by the way, the Bertolli Olive Oil Company is still reeling from your suggested application of Bertolli olive oil to a certain aspect of male. We'll leave that for another time.
Right, but you compiled it, and we now have that list, and naturally there have been many others that have dripped from my lips over the years. So if you go to curtislionelinterview.wmv.
Oh, do you have that? Oh, wonderful, because you know what? I have the original. Remember the great Doris Wasser?
Yes.
Doris Wasser, I don't think ever slept. I think that's what you led to her demise, because she wrote down every single day. I have in this computer that I will not, this laptop, which I will not get rid of. I can't open it up. It's like Windows 3. I don't know what operating system this is, but I have that there, and I will not get rid of it because of this. I mean, single space, Curtis. I swear to God, 10 pages. And they are just incredible.
Well, we're going to have to morph them into what I have now listed, because the Sliwonics that's now on curtislionelinterview.com are it's recent vintage. You have the sort of like the 100-year-old rum that's still in that wooden barrel.
And they age with. But see, one of the things that I want people, and I hope I'm not, it's like when people used to, as you know, you are the Arnold Skolin of talk radio, but in the days of great professional wrestling, where you and I did share this, where this was one of the meccas, New York. There was a time when people started to peel back the layer of the mystery, the heel, the baby face, the work. And they kind of ruined it. I don't want to ruin this image that you, Curtis Rock Sliwa, have maintained. You, as I used to refer to you, the generalissimo of an imaginary group of urban commandos. You, I mean, let's face it, you're in your mid-60s right now, still with a barrage. I'm not going to let people know. Listen, but if you listening think that somehow Curtis doesn't know everything he's doing and everything he's saying, you've got, I'm sorry, Curtis, but rumors of your lack of facility with the English language have been greatly exaggerated. You are a work. You created yourself. I remember calling you one time in the middle of the night, and you answered, hello? I said, who's this? Excuse me. Yeah, how are you? You're a fraud, Curtis. You were born in Manchester, England. Come on, you were a Don. You were an Oxford Don. This is all a work. This is you were like the Jimmy Superfly Snuka of professional radio.
And I could still take you off the top rope.